and endless skies. Oh, I'm living that nomad life, city to city, feeling alive. From mountain tops to ocean drives, unchained I thrive, I thrive.
So thank you so much for joining us here on Nomads 50 Plus. My name is Chris Kalaboukis, and it's my mission, my current mission, to interview 1,000 digital nomads and or midlife recalibrators. And today we have a very special guest. Why don't you tell us a little about, introduce yourself and tell us a little about your story.
Hi, I'm Trisha Schoenbaum, or Trisha Global Travel. I am a retired attorney and empty nester turned part-time nomad, I would say.
Hmm.
Um, so I am based in the Pacific Northwest, but I travel. I aim to travel something close to once a month,
Hmm.
and go somewhere. Um, my husband still is at home. He comes with me sometimes. Sometimes I travel with my sister. Sometimes I travel with friends, and sometimes solo.
Nice. So your husband's still working?
My husband's still working.
Excellent.
Poor
So he
thing.
he works remotely. I know the feeling.
He works remotely. Yes.
Oh, that's good.
And
Is
he
this
actually travels quite a bit as well. So, being retired now, I get to go with him. Earlier this year, he had a trip to Dubai, and I said, I'm coming with you.
nice?
And
Well, you
actually, that was January at the exact right time to go to Dubai because the next month it was no longer the right time to go to Dubai.
yeah,
So
exactly.
we
You
were
got
very
in there
lucky with that.
right under the wire. Well,
We did.
that's a new thing, right? It's called
Yes.
bleisure travel.
Yes.
So you just tack on some extra days on either end.
Well, what's
So you
happening
have
is he's doing the business and I'm doing the leisure.
right.
But yes, he does tack
So
on a little bit of time.
yeah. So that's very cool. So have you always been interested in travel? I mean, since you were young, I mean, did your family travel?
Always, yes. Um, let's see. We started traveling, going to see relatives on the East Coast because we were the West Coast family. I would call us the white sheep, not the black sheep, being the West Coast family. But my first
You're
travel
the more
abroad,
tan sheet
I would
because
like to
you're
say that, but I did not get the tan genes in the family. My sister got those. Um, but yeah, my first travel abroad was when I was 12 years old, and my mom took me to Greece and to Italy.
oh
And
wow.
it really lit me up. I think, in part, going back to why it really sparked something in me. I mean, first of all, my mom and my grandmother were huge travelers, so they
Mm,
always talked about it. But I think the thing that really lit me up about it was I was a voracious reader as a
mm,
child,
mm,
and I had read a ton of mythology and a ton of history. And going to these places in Athens, in Crete, Rhodes, Rome, it was bringing to life these
mm.
books that I had read. And, when you're reading, you're immersed in another world. When you travel, you're immersed in another world too, in a different way. And the collision of those two things was just wild. I think it rocked me. I was hooked.
Nice. So it must have been really good. How old did you say you were?
I was 12.
Wow. So that must have been fantastic going to those places at that
It
age.
was. It
So
was
very, very different from what they're like now, I'm sure.
very different. I had a lot of travel experiences that I almost don't want to go back to because I feel like they'd be so different than they
Mm,
were than they are in my memory. And I have been back to both of those places, and I can say that sometimes you get quite a shock going somewhere that you haven't been in like 30 years, 20 years.
oh yeah, it's
There's
amazing
really
how
different.
much it's changed because you have this perception of what things like in your mind, and then when you
Yes.
go back, you're like, wait a minute, I don't remember this, I don't remember that. That was,
Yep.
and
Or
especially with the
really, it's the crowds. To be,
that's
it's I have these memories like when I was 18, I went to Paris for a summer, and I just have these memories of walking all around Paris. And in my memory, all the hordes of people were not there. Like,
yes,
I remember walking down the Champs-Elysees, like, and having it be not me alone on the road, but like I wasn't packed 5 people thick on the street walking.
yes, yeah.
And going back to Paris now, it is a very different feeling.
Oh yeah.
So,
Well, we were lucky. We went to Paris between the Olympics. So the Olympics, we had the Olympics, and there was a Special Olympics, and they
mhm.
had completely cleaned up Paris, and there was hardly anybody there because everybody had left on vacation. So it was quiet. But that on the flip side, See, that's the problem with travel. Is like on the one hand, you do want to go there when it's not too crowded, but on the other hand, you just do not get the same experience you do when there are more people. Like if you go
Yeah.
in the shoulder season or in the off season, it's a completely different experience from going in the high season.
Very true. And I was actually in Paris right before the Olympics. And I can say that you hit it at the right time because when I was there was construction everywhere, road blockades. It was hard to get anywhere. So I got all the difficulty of the Olympics without any of the benefit of the actual Olympics going on and the excitement and that sort of thing.
Right.
But Paris was so crowded then, and I was
Hmm.
surprised at how crowded it was. I've been back to Paris in between 18 and the Olympics, but it was really crowded last time I was there,
Mm.
and it was only
Yeah.
May.
Yeah, I think what's happened is that back then it was more difficult for people to travel and it cost more money. And now it's become more accessible to more people. And now we find everyone traveling everywhere. And especially after COVID, where everybody was locked down, there was all this pent up demand. And now it's just exploded. And here we are still 5 years later, 6 years later, 5 or 6 years later. And every place is crammed full of people. It's crazy.
Yes, I actually had a super interesting conversation with a tour guide while I was in India last year, and we were talking about the same thing. But he was talking about how much more accessible travel has become now that the economies in like China and India and these super populated places have improved, and therefore these travel is open to so many more foreigners than it used to be. And I thought that was a great perspective on why you see crowds the way you do now.
Yeah,
On
for
the one
sure.
hand, that's fantastic because it makes travel more accessible to tons and tons of people. And I personally think everybody should be traveling. I think it's a great thing.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
it does change the experience quite a bit.
Yeah, I got to the point where when I was at the Louvre to see, and I just happened to go into the Mona Lisa room, right? And I couldn't get anywhere near it. So I thought to myself, maybe I should start taking pictures of the crowds at these places instead of the actual thing itself, because
That
there were
would
just
probably
so
be an
many people
interesting
there.
project. Did you do it?
No, I'm thinking about doing it though, because every time we go somewhere, it just seems that every place is so crowded with tourists, and it kind of changes the tenor of the place. Because
Yes.
when you go to a place, you think, okay, I'm in Paris. I want to be experience Paris, but it's so full of tourists that it doesn't even feel Parisian.
It's true. And it's harder to have that experience where you're meeting local people and encountering them. And sometimes when you do, they're a little irritated because you're a tourist
Oh
in their
no, not another
city.
tourist.
So, yeah.
So where else have you been? So you said
Oh
you
my
went
gosh.
50 countries or something like
I
that?
have been
Like,
to 50 countries. So if you want me to
right.
name them, we could take up the whole rest of the hour.
Well, you don't
Um,
have to name them, but like, give me some of the like experiences, specific experiences that are highlights for you.
Absolutely. Well, since we've been talking about crowds and experiencing a place one way, I will say, well, and this is a story, but I was in Vietnam, backpacking, traveling the world. I kind of quit my job in the middle of being a lawyer and did this for
Wait a
three
minute, wait a
months.
minute. You quit your job in the middle of being a lawyer?
Yeah.
What
So what?
happened?
So I'll tell you the whole story. But what I
Okay,
wanted to
go
say
for it.
specifically was I was in Vietnam, and I will go back to the beginning. But I was in Vietnam, and I was in Vietnam in 2000, and it was before it was open to the United States for trade. There wasn't a McDonald's, there wasn't a 7-Eleven. It was a country that was just not frozen in time, but it just was completely devoid of all that like European and American capitalism. And it was just
Mm,
Vietnam. And the experience there was so purely, authentically Vietnamese. I met a guy on an airplane. I met another businessman, and he invited me to his home. Okay, I was a little bit crazy. This is before the internet. No one knew where I was. I hop on a little moped. I accepted his dinner invitation to go out to his family out in the suburbs of
wow.
whatever town I was in. And I hopped on his little moped in back of him and we drove out to wherever, to his house. And I had dinner with his family. And like that was just so fantastic. And I don't know that that can happen when places are so crowded the way that they are now.
Mm.
Um, but that was amazing. So yeah, so what was I doing at 30, hopping on a moped on the back of a guy's moped and going out to his house for dinner? Um, so I was a lawyer in the Bay Area during this time. and I was working at a fancy law firm, and it was 2000, and I had the
Oh my God, it
opportunity.
was the height of everything. It was
Well,
nuts here in
it turns
2000.
out it was just past the height, because I had an opportunity to go to a startup, and I thought, oh, IPO, spin-offs, amazing. So I went in as the
It's the
second
Silicon Valley
lawyer.
dream. That's why we're here.
It
We're here to
was,
find a
but
startup that will make us
unfortunately,
a
everyone
billionaire.
was waking up from the dream because it turns out I was in the middle of the dot-com bust,
Mm,
and my first project there was to lay off a third of the company. So,
terrible.
yeah, it was terrible. It was a terrible, terrible thing to have to do. Um, and I thought, what am I doing? I just jumped from this law firm job into this job where I'm laying off a third of the company. I don't want to be here. And I thought, what is stopping me from quitting my job and traveling the world? Because honestly, that was what I wanted to do. So I kind of took inventory. I was single, didn't have a family, didn't have kids. I had just paid off my law school loans, but I owned a condo in Redwood Shores over by Oracle, and I had a mortgage. And I thought, if I could just get my mortgage covered, there's no reason that I couldn't just put on a backpack and travel the world. So this was 2000, and this was an acceptable thing to do. I put an ad on Craigslist. It was not creepy.
Craigslist is
Um,
the place for everything. I mean, I got jobs off Craigslist. Craigslist is
it
great.
it was definitely the place then because within 48 hours, I got an email from a Yale professor wanting to rent out my condo with his wife. He had like a 3-month stint at Stanford during the exact time that I envisioned I would be doing this. And I took it as a sign because Yale's my alma mater. So I was like, this definitely means something. So I accepted the rental on the condo and I went to my boss and I said, I just got here. I've been at this job for 3 months. I said, I know I just got here, but I laid off a third of the company and this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I'm going to quit my job and travel the world. And he said to me, you know, if I was you, I would quit this job and travel the world too. And here's a list of places you should go in Southeast Asia. So he
I love it.
proceeded to give me a bunch of recommendations. And he also said, I'm going to give you an unpaid leave of absence and you can come back here for a soft landing when you get back and figure out what you want to
Oh
do.
my God, that's
Uh,
amazing. No one
it
does that
was
anymore.
definitely no, I don't know how everything lined up the way that it did. It certainly couldn't happen every day, but I was so lucky, and it was just definitely one of those things where you take the chance when you can, right? Like I took inventory, and I was in a place in my life where, I could cover my biggest risk, and I thought, this is my biggest risk. I'm not going to worry about what I'm going to do when I get back. Like I'll figure that out. And so I put on a backpack and I flew out to Hong Kong, and this was in November of 2000. It was the night of the Bush v. Gore election. I thought I'd land and find out who won the election, and little did I know there were hanging chads everywhere for months on end while
I
I traveled
remember
the
that. I
world.
remember that time. It was crazy.
Yep.
Crazy time.
So I landed in Hong Kong, and I worked my way south to Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, Australia, and New Zealand.
Nice.
3.5 months, I did a liveaboard and I dove the Great Barrier Reef. I hiked on a glacier. I rappelled down caves. I met people everywhere, getting on mopeds and taking, trips out to people's houses. So I met locals, I met other travelers. Um, and it was a really amazing, life changing trip. I took my time. I went wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted, loved traveling solo. I read a ton of books. Literally, my backpack was filled with books because there were no
Wow.
Kindles.
No.
So I would take a backpack and, all I have is this backpack and I would have 10 books in it at a time. And I
Like a
really,
college student.
I hate to get rid of books. So I'd read the batch of
Oh,
10
me too.
books and then I'd go to a post office like in Vietnam and I'd package them up in a cardboard box and I'd do the slowest mail possible and I'd mail them back to my house.
Oh, no way.
Um, and then I'd go and buy like 10 more books.
Wow.
And that was how I traveled. So I constantly was lugging around a big set of books and just a few clothes. But it was a fantastic trip.
Wow.
Um,
So tell me about what happened when you told your friends and family that you were doing this? What did they think?
Um, I think people thought, there's two camps, right? The good for you and the what is going to happen to you when you get back.
Mm.
And also the you're doing what? Um,
So there's three camps.
you know, the one of the camps was you're doing this all alone, like you're going to Southeast Asia by
Mm,
yourself and you have no plan. And there were, I mean, there were cell phones. There were cell phones, but I didn't have one with me.
yeah.
I there were internet cafes, and like every few days, I'd stop at an internet cafe and tell like my family where I was. I loved the email where I was like, "You will be reading this, and you will be glad to know that this is in my past." But yesterday, I jumped out of an airplane. Um, I
I
definitely
like
didn't
the way
tell
you
them
waited until
beforehand.
afterwards to tell people
Oh,
about it.
for sure. That is not, I don't think you tell somebody you're going to jump out of an airplane and then you disappear and there's no way that they can contact you or find you in the world. That just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, but it would
Um,
be more interesting though. Can you imagine? You jump out of an airplane
yes.
and people are like waiting for you to come back.
But the biggest thing I got, I remember the people in Vietnam were so nice and so kind. I never really felt unsafe traveling. But I would stay in these hotels and everyone would say to me, "Where's your husband?" And I
Hmm.
would say, "No husband."
Hmm.
I spent a lot of time in Vietnam saying, "No husband, no husband." And
Right.
everyone was so concerned for me. They weren't concerned that I was traveling alone. They were concerned that I had no husband.
That's right. That
Um,
that is the
and
biggest problem.
it is the biggest problem. However, I, I solved that problem as soon as I got home. And that is a very interesting story. And it has a lot to do with the fact that I had done all of this and jumped out of airplanes and hiked on glaciers. Um, so when you're ready, I'll tell you that
No, no,
story.
no. I see. So you went. Let's go. So you went all the way down to Australia, New Zealand. You go to the New Zealand as well, and then
I
from
did. I
there,
spent 3 weeks in New Zealand.
you went to Vietnam, or what
No,
other
no,
places? And then
no. I started in Hong Kong. So I started north and then I went down. Let's see, I got to Vietnam first. I worked my way from Hanoi down to Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City. And then I bopped into Thailand and worked my way down from there. And I hit Angkor Wat in Cambodia. I never made it to Phnom Penh, and I was pretty disappointed about that. But I had booked a couple of flights, and as it was like as long as I hit the next city where my flight was, and I didn't have time to go to Phnom Penh because I had to fly in order to get to um, what was the next stop? Australia. I had to fly
mm,
to get to Australia.
well, yeah, it is kind of
Um,
far. So did you have money saved up, or was the rent enough to cover the mortgage and your travels as well?
So I was an attorney and I had paid off my loans and I don't really know how I managed to save so much in the first like I guess it was about 6 7 years of being a lawyer and I managed to pay off my loans and save a lot of money. I guess I naturally lived frugally back in those days. And I looked at part of my taking inventory was looking at my savings and saying, how much money do I think I have to do this? And I definitely didn't plan to be unemployed when I got back for very long, which was a risk, but it was a kind of calculated risk because I felt like I had a background with the big law firms that I was safe enough I could manage employment afterward. So I
Right.
took inventory and I set a budget for myself and I bought the plane tickets and I stayed in $10 a night places. I stayed in pretty inexpensive places. I had stayed in $2 a night places when I was in my 20s, but I was 30 years old at the time and I felt I'm entitled to an upgrade. I can go from $2 a night to $10 a night.
Yeah, and those
And
are not
so,
really nice rooms at $10 a night at the time, right?
yes.
I
But
bet.
you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, I do think I stayed in some pretty inexpensive hostels for a little while there in Australia. I was just kind of gauging like how safe did I feel? How much did I need like a nice clean bed? How much did I feel like I can go stay in a dorm with a few people? So I did a mix of everything. But now that I'm thinking about it, more closely, I did stay in some pretty inexpensive hostels in New Zealand and Australia by the end because I was feeling the pinch of things.
Right.
But I set my budget and I just thought, you know what, I can do this. Like I've backpacked on $2 a day in my 20s, and I know I can do it for the amount of money that I set. And that was how I figured it out.
Yeah. So would you recommend having that pile of money before you go or making it on your way? Because it sounds like you didn't do any work while you were traveling, right? You didn't pick
I
up any
didn't.
odd jobs or anything.
What I was doing at the time and the way the world was at the time, I think it would have been extremely difficult to try to do legal work without the connectivity that we have today. Um, and um, just back the way that things were then. I don't think that working remotely was as much of a thing. Although I did try that before it was really a thing. Um, that's a little later in my story.
Right. But you could do
Um,
that. You could do
but
that now. Like
I
if you
think
were to,
now for
yeah.
certain, yeah,
So you could just
I do
sort of
think
pick up
so.
and go and continue your job wherever you were in the world based on what we have
I
today.
think with legal work, it's a little bit different because, for example, some state bars require your butt to be in the chair
Right.
in the place where you're barred. Oregon, for example. Well, actually, it was the inverse. I had my California bar, and I moved to Oregon, and I checked with the bar because I'm kind of careful about these things. I said, I don't have any Oregon clients. I don't do any Oregon law. And they were like, well, your butt's in a chair in Oregon, so you have to take the Oregon bar.
Mm.
Um, so I took the Oregon bar. But I think with legal work, it may be a little bit different. But I guess as long as your clients are where they are, I guess you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if your clients are okay with it, but for legal
Yeah.
work, there's other requirements. But if your clients are okay with it, feel like you're doing marketing or anything like that, anything else, if your clients are okay with it, it shouldn't matter where you
Yeah.
go.
I'm sure that there are lawyers that go abroad and do legal work. I
Yeah,
certainly did it on vacations when I was a lawyer.
yeah. So then you got back from this amazing trip. How long were you away?
I was away for 3.5 months.
Mm, nice.
Yep. And I got back and I had coffee with my sister and a friend of hers on my way back to my job that was waiting for me, that I used as a warm transition. But I was having coffee with her, and she and a friend were talking about internet dating. And
Hmm.
this was back in the days when I think the two choices, maybe there were like a few choices. There was Match.com and JDate, which was the Jewish dating site. And my sister and her friend said, you should really try this. And I was like, no, I don't want to internet date.
Well, this is the early days, so not many
I
people
envisioned
were
all
doing
sorts
it.
of crazy things happening. And I
Yeah,
thought, you know what? That's not for me.
crazier
And
than
after,
getting on the back of a guy's moped in Vietnam.
I was not
You've
trying to
done
date him.
crazy already by now.
Yeah, well, I suppose I wasn't really thinking that I was going to get on mopeds and go on internet dates. But yes, I certainly have proven myself at this point to be somewhat of a risk taker. And that is what happened. I left the coffee and I thought about it. And, in the coming days, I thought, I have jumped out of an airplane. I have lived aboard and dove the Great Barrier Reef. I've hiked on a glacier. I've traveled by myself in Southeast Asia for 3.5 months. I was like, what's a little internet dating? Like, how is that a bigger, a crazier thing to
Yeah,
do
which is more
than
of a
what I've
risk.
already done? So I am really kind of I like to list and plan and think. So I thought, okay, this is my plan. My plan is 5 dates. I will give it five internet dates. That's a good amount to try this thing and be able to check it off and say, yeah, I tried
Sure.
internet dating. It's what I thought it
Yeah,
was.
it's like a proof of
So
concept, right?
proof of concept, exactly right. So I created a profile and I went on and I found a date and I set up a plan. And if you know the South Bay, the Bay Area,
Hmm.
we arranged to have coffee in Burlingame at a Starbucks.
Hmm.
You might even be able to picture the exact one if you're in
Yes,
the
I do.
area.
I do.
Yeah. So you can picture me at a date
Wait, was that the
at a
one right off the freeway on El Camino?
It was, on is it Burlingame Road? It's been so long. I think it's
Yeah,
Burlingame Drive where they
yeah,
have, like, the shops and everything,
yeah.
and it wasn't really so, like, much of a thing then, but there's Starbucks and a few other shops.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
it's a
Well,
fancy place
Starbucks
to
was a
go.
big deal at one point, right? Now it's
Yeah.
everywhere.
So, we sat at this Starbucks, and I'm having coffee with this guy on my first internet date, and it's a little breezy, it's a pretty Sunday afternoon, and I kid you not, I'm looking at him, and his toupee starts blowing in the wind. And I thought, this
I
is
love it.
why this is why people give internet dating a bad name. It's exactly, what you think about.
Really? I thought it was height.
So,
I thought height was the thing because I
I
hear,
mean, that's certainly one of the things.
yeah,
There's a lot of things, right?
yeah.
Like it could be height, it could be, but toupee blowing in the wind is definitely on the list of like
It's
things that
lucky you were
you
outside so you could
you
actually.
don't discern, right? You don't discern from the photograph and the talking on the phone and whatnot. So I thought, you know what? I said 5 dates. I'm a woman of my word. Dates 2, 3, and 4 were, unremarkable. They were
Mm,
fine. I can't really remember them. And then somebody emailed me. And prior to that, I had been finding the people based on my criteria. And this guy emails me and he's got a cute picture. And we start a witty repartee going back and forth. And he's
Hmm.
super interesting. And one day he emails me. And you so normally, like the way I don't know how it works now because I haven't dated in quite some time. But back then, you would email a couple times, then talk on the phone, and then maybe go for a date. And or at least that was how I was doing it. I only did 5 of these things, so I can't say that I'm an expert. But he emails me and he says, are you free tonight to meet for a drink? And I hadn't talked to him on the phone, but the place that he named to meet for a drink was directly kitty corner from my condo, and he didn't know where I lived. And I
Mm.
thought, sign again, a sign. So I thought, you know what, that's so easy. Like I could definitely stop across the street
Hmm.
for a drink tonight. So I said, all right, I'll meet you there. So I walk into the place and I look, he's cute. But when the waitress said, shall I seat you at the bar or at a table? I was like, bar, please, because, toupee guy. So I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't know what I'm going to find out. So we're definitely sitting at the bar. We're not committing to dinner.
Yes.
But we ended up closing down the restaurant. We talked about
Nice.
everything. Travel was definitely something we shared, but it was like by far the best date I had ever had.
Very cool.
And at the end of the night, we walk out, like they're putting the bar stools up beside us. Like we closed down the place on like
Nice.
a Wednesday night or whatever it was. And at the end of it, he walks me out to my car and he says goodbye. And he says, I was going to tell you how the snow is in Tahoe because we were both headed to Tahoe to ski within the coming week. He said, I was going to tell you how the snow is, but you're going to find out. And then he hops in his car and drives away. And I drive across the street and I'm thinking, best date ever. And then I was like, wait a minute. This guy doesn't have my number because he's never asked for it. We never talked on the phone. And he never said, what's your number? Nor did he say, I will ever see you again.
Mm.
And I had a moment where I thought, did I just trap a guy in a restaurant all the way until closing time and he was trying to get out of there and never see me again?
Oh no.
So I had like 24 hours where I really doubted myself. And I thought maybe I had trapped this guy into talking until the restaurant closed. And like maybe I was the problem. And so
Wow.
I thought, if this guy does not call me, I think I need to take a break from all dating, like not just internet dating. I think I really need to like take a break, maybe do some like socializing classes and understand how to communicate with people. But sure enough, he emailed me the next morning and said how great it was. And I ended up meeting my husband. And really, it is never something I would have done had I not had that traveling experience. And actually, that experience was one of the things that most interested him about me and made him email me. So,
Mm.
um, indirectly, but definitely a chain that you can follow. My traveling the world led to my meeting my husband.
Nice. So now
Um,
you can go back to Vietnam and say, "Here's my husband."
I
Have you
can.
been?
Yes.
Have
I
you
can
been back
show
yet?
all of those people who asked me, here's my husband. But the funny thing is that whenever people ask me how I met my husband, I always start with the time I quit my job and traveled the world, because to
Hmm.
me, the stories are so connected. So
Very
I
cool.
just
And
told it backwards, but
you
yeah,
said he's a traveler as well. So has he been
he loves
everywhere?
to travel as well. Yes, he loves to travel as well, but he clearly misses out on a lot of my travels these days.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But eventually, I'm assuming you guys will be able to travel together.
Well, we do
Like,
travel together.
yeah.
I try to arrange my travel in a very specific way because my husband loves to travel. I travel with my sister a lot. She's a travel partner of mine. And we try to go every year, at least somewhere. And we have a very specific way, again, that decide where we're going. So next week, I'm headed to Mongolia with my sister. That's the sister trip for this year. And the way we figure out travel is she's been to over 70 countries. I'm the poorly traveled sister in this situation. She's been to over 70 countries. I've been to over 50. They don't all overlap. So we try to pick a new place. But we're further narrowed by the fact that I try not to give my husband too much FOMO,
Mm,
and make him feel bad that I'm going somewhere that he really wants to go.
right.
So you can see how Mongolia might have come up as a place that neither my sister nor I had been. and that my husband probably didn't have on his list of places
Right.
to go.
It doesn't seem to be. I read an article about Mongolia just yesterday, and it seems like a really interesting place to visit.
I
Is that
would
how you?
love for you to send me the article.
I will.
I think it is going to be an incredibly interesting place to visit, and um, that Vietnam experience that I talk about, that sort of untouched and uncommercial feeling, I really hope and expect to recapture that feeling going to Mongolia.
Hmm.
I know that there's no McDonald's in the Gobi Desert.
That's what I hear too. So, after you got back, you got work. Sorry, you got work at some other law firm, and you worked at a law firm for a while, and then you decided to retire from that point. I mean, what made you decide to leave?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I got back. I never went back to a law firm. I
Oh,
worked
really?
in house. I worked in house for a couple of companies,
Okay.
um, and then my husband and I have moved quite a few times. We are well traveled within the United States. We ended up moving from the Bay Area to Michigan very shortly after we got married,
Wow, what a
and
difference.
a very big difference. And I told him I didn't want to be an automotive lawyer. I ended up going remote. Again, I was very lucky in my career. I've always found that when I've taken the chance and taken the leap, that I've been able to work things out. So we ended up, but again, carefully and with planning. I told my husband that I would quit my job for him if we got 6 months of temporary housing and flew back and forth for 6 months and made sure that it was the job that he thought it was going to be.
Hmm.
So we flew back and forth for 6 months. And actually, the day he left for that job, I found out I was pregnant with our first child.
Oh, wow.
So there I was pregnant and we were flying back and forth in long distance between Michigan and the Bay Area. But we found a place to live. And I asked my boss at the time if I could just take the last 3 months and work remotely before I had the baby. And he said to me, "Why don't you just keep your job and work remotely?"
Nice.
Um, and I was very, very lucky. I kept my Bay Area job for 2 years and did the remote working way back before it was fashionable.
I love when that
Um,
happens. As I've had experiences like that where other people, especially from the Bay Area, they have that flexibility, right? Other places are
yeah.
like, oh well, no, you're in Michigan now, so we have to pay you Michigan scale and not California wages. But I've
Oh,
had,
and I kept my California salary too. I
yeah,
was super
exactly.
lucky.
Oh yeah, you
So
have to
I
do
worked
that.
in the basement while the baby was upstairs, and I had my California salary and my California tech job for 2 years and then at
Nice.
that point, there was another general counsel, and I had my second baby. And he kind of looked around at things and he was like, "Tell me again why we have this lady in Michigan working out of her basement?" And it was a fair question. So I ended up leaving. And again, didn't know what I was going to do. And one of my former coworkers called me and said, "My company's about to go public and I'm all by myself. And I hear you're alone. How about you come work with me?"
Nice.
And I didn't go on board as a full time employee. I started my own law firm instead because as soon as I did that, other former coworkers started calling me and offering to give me
Awesome.
work.
That's great.
So my own law firm was basically born, and that is what I did until I retired. I did that for about 15 years.
Hmm.
And I was super lucky. I had Bay Area clients the whole time. And during that time, we moved from Michigan to Oregon, back to the Bay Area, and back to Oregon.
Wow.
Yep. Um, but
That's crazy. So
I did
you ran that
retire.
whole time.
Yes, I ran that whole time. So I was a lawyer for 25 years, and I did retire very early. And there was some specific stuff that prompted that and made me look at things differently and decide to start traveling a lot and living my life in these other different ways that I do
Anything
now.
you can disclose as to why you decided to
Yeah,
quit?
yeah, for sure. It started around COVID. As with so many people, COVID was a super difficult time for me. But for me, COVID was really the backdrop. I was going through a lot of other things at the time. My father was ill with cancer in the LA area, and I was flying back and forth a lot, trying to advocate for his medical care. And side note, I can't say enough how important it is to be an advocate for yourself or for your loved ones in medical care. It makes such a difference. And I saw that
Absolutely.
time and time again. But my father was in various trials during this time, and that was during COVID. It was very, very difficult. Um, and in the middle of that, my third sister, I was one of three, passed away unexpectedly,
Oh no.
leaving behind her two teenage sons. So that was very traumatic, um, and and really changes your perspective. A sister is, your parents. You know you're going to lose them, and that does not make it easy. But a sister you do not expect to lose in that
Absolutely.
way at that time. So I lost my sister, and then we eventually did lose my dad as well, very shortly thereafter, less than a year. And then my mom, who had dementia, declined very quickly, and I spent the next year having her be in memory care and taking care of her. And then she also passed away slightly unexpectedly due to dementia-related complications. So in 2.5 years, my family went from five to two, my
Wow.
nuclear family.
Hmm.
And I was working full time in house plus my law practice during that time.
Wow.
And I
That's a
went,
ton of work. How did you handle it all?
I took a full time remote job right as COVID started because another former coworker of mine called me and said, I have an open requisition. And ordinarily, I wouldn't ask you to do it. We had worked together many times. She had been a client of mine. But she said, ordinarily, I wouldn't ask you, but everybody's remote now. So why don't you just do this job? It's perfect for you. And I
Right.
said, well, I've got all these other clients on the side. And she was like, don't ask, don't tell, So I kept my clients and I worked for her. And it was right after that that everything started to go south with my family and my sister. And um, I kept my job. I did all of this during this time. And at the end of it, I kind of picked my head up and I said, I really don't know what I'm trying to prove.
Mm.
I was working like a job and a half and like trying to stop all these horrible emergencies in my family, flying all around. And I was in five hospitals in three different states during
Oh my
COVID.
God.
Not me checked in as a patient, but me taking care of other people
Right.
in my family.
As
Because
you
my
were
husband,
working, as you had your clients, all
yeah,
of
because
these
my
things at the
husband
same
also
time.
had surgery during this time,
Oh my God.
a couple of surgeries. It was and I had teenage kids. So it was a
Jeez.
very, very tough time. And I got through it. And I just thought, you know what? I, and also, uh, I had started doing some competitive horseback riding
Of
again
course. Why not?
back in my 40s. Yeah,
Just
so
pile it all on at the
I
same
was
time. Why not?
doing that too. And that was not going so well in that
Wait a
I was
second.
breaking limbs repeatedly. I broke about 13 bones in a span of several years.
Oh Lord.
So I myself was having some difficulty in that respect.
Wow.
But when I didn't have broken bones, I generally had my health,
Hmm.
which is something I really no longer took for granted at all, having gone through what I went through with my family. And um, I just decided that I was in a position. The side effect of having lost both my parents was that I was also in a financial position where it was no longer necessary for me to work. I was in a position where I was able to take care of myself in a worst
Right.
case scenario. So with time and health and money, I felt like there was no time like the present to start
Right.
doing the things that really fed me and brought me passion. So travel was one of them. And there are a few other things I do with my time now that are super meaningful to me.
So can you
Um,
tell me about the moment you decided to retire and to get away from all this?
oh,
Because you are like a pancake person. You've got like five things that, like everything layered on top of everything else. You're like a high stack of
there
stuff,
was
and
no
you just kept
moment.
adding more to it. It's like I can't imagine anybody doing that. And then you're like, okay, let's add more. And then all of a
I
sudden
like
you
to
just said,
operate
okay,
at 10.
goodbye.
I like to operate at 10. I mean, this was operating at 50 out of 10.
Yeah.
It was way too much and way too traumatic. So, and I was ready to go back to 10 out of 10.
Mm,
And that felt fine. But it was really difficult for me to quit my job. It was a huge part of my identity, a huge part of um, really my identity, because at this point, like, it wasn't something that I was loving doing. And I was really better able to prioritize things. So I knew I needed to do it for a lot longer um, before I actually did it. And I
Mm,
actually did it in phases. I tried to quit the full time job, and then they were like, no, please don't go.
hmm.
So I phased out of that over a period of several months. And then I tried to get the clients to leave me, but they wouldn't all leave me. So instead of pushing them out the door, I like waged a war of attrition against my own business. And
Wow.
I sort of let the clients drop off, and I let the work get less and less and less. And it took me a really long time to finally, I had to kind of push the last couple of clients out the door and say, all right, I'm really doing this. But the whole process took about 2.5 years. So
Wow. But
yeah, it
that
was not
moment
an
that you
aha
decided,
moment.
like, when was the moment then you decided that you wanted to take that path? And what drove you to that? Because it sounds like you were happy with stacking all these things on top of each other and adding
Hmm.
more. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, like, was there a breaking point or something that just triggered that?
I think after my mom passed away, so I had these layers and layers of family tragedy, and when my mom passed away, like that was it. Like no one else was going to go because my sister and I made a pact, like we're sticking it out with each other until the end. So no one else was allowed to go,
Right.
and I was like, this was enough. And again, like I said. That recognition that I had these three important things: time, health, money, and really just knowing that those are not things that you take for granted.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I think it was really pretty shortly after my mom passed away that I knew I had to do it. I'm trying to remember whether it took me a whole nother year or whether I did it shortly thereafter.
Were you
It took me a long time to actually pull the trigger.
were you in a bit of a grieving process, like a loss, where you go like, I don't like, I have all of these things that I'm responsible for that I'm doing, and that I love doing some of them. I don't love doing all of them, but like once you started feeling like you were going to divest yourself from them, did that were that was that scary at all, or were you thinking like, can I
100%.
get rid of all this and still be
It was definitely losing a huge part of myself. Um, but it's funny you ask about that moment, and I don't think I really thought about it this way before. But it was hard to grieve all of this loss, personal loss, especially because when my sister passed away, I knew I had to stay strong because my dad was passing away. When my dad passed away, I knew I had to stay strong to take care of my mom. And when my mom finally passed away, that probably did trigger this. Finally, I was free to feel
mm,
um, all of this loss in a way that maybe I wasn't able to fully feel it, while I still felt like I had this weight of responsibility of taking care of the ill members of my family, taking care of my parents.
right.
Um, so that's probably the point at which I allowed myself to feel like I needed to do something for myself. But at the same time, I was losing a huge part of my identity in doing it. And I didn't know what was going to come next. But as you can see from the rest of my story, I've always pushed myself to take the leap when
Mm,
I got to the edge of a precipice, an opportunity. And this really was something that was an opportunity. And I know myself well enough to know that retiring from law doesn't mean retiring entirely. Like there's
hmm.
another thing out there.
Right.
Um, and in fact, like I would say that having started to write the Substack a couple months ago, I am finding a thing.
Mm,
Um, and I still don't know exactly where it's going, but I think until yeah, I was waiting for the thing the whole time I was a lawyer. I knew it wasn't the passionate thing. It was a really good decision, and I really enjoyed some of it, and I really didn't enjoy other parts of it. And I never felt like it was the thing that was the
mm,
passion. And after 25 years, another aspect of it was. Um, I knew that the thing wasn't going to come along and find me. Like I always thought, maybe the thing will come along and find me. Like it'll just come along.
it'll just fall in your lap. Things have
It
fallen in your
will.
lap before. Why
I
not?
thought it might. And after 25 years, I felt like, you know what? The thing is not falling. It is not. So I think I need
I
to
have to
go
go
out
get
there
it.
and get it. I think I need to go get it. And so part of this exercise of retiring was a trust that I was going to go get something else.
Hmm.
So it's been a couple years now since I've been fully retired, about two. And I'm still a little bit pursuing that something else. But when a friend suggested that I should write about my travels because I do it so much, it was a little bit of an aha. And I thought, you know what? I could do that.
Hmm.
I would like doing that. And so I started doing it, and I am actually really loving it.
Excellent.
And and not only that, but I'm loving it, and I have a second idea that I think I might pursue.
Nice.
Um, yeah,
Nice.
and that
I love it.
if you read my chats lately and my notes, you could probably figure out what that thing is. And actually, if you go on my Substack and look at my newsletters, there's a newsletter up there that is currently unpopulated. But I named it and put a little logo up there to try to push myself to make it happen.
Nice.
So
Nice. So
it's
that's coming
it's
soon.
it's
Coming
called
soon.
the Literary Itinerary.
Ooh, I love that. Are you going to tell us about it?
I like the name. Well, it is thus far unfleshed out, but
Hmm.
I put up a note about 2 days ago just about my passion for reading and my passion for travel and how the two are so important to me to do together. Like I talked about with earlier, and my first travels at 12 and going to Greece and going to Rome and having that, bring alive all the mythology that I had read. I have always liked to read books set in a place that I'm going, both to educate myself about a place and also to feel the setting more completely. So when I went to Rwanda, I read books about Rwanda. I just finished. I'm so proud of myself for finishing. It was a historical book instead of historical fiction, which is my favorite genre. I just read Genghis Khan: The Making of the Modern World in preparation for going to Mongolia. And I've also set a goal to read a fictional book because I really like fiction and historical fiction in particularly. But I really like reading a place and then going to it, or reading a place and being in it. Um, so the idea is to have a Substack that takes that idea and expands upon it. I haven't really seen anything. I mean, I've definitely seen literary reading book clubs out there, but I haven't seen anything where people are writing and they're writing about what you should read before you go and why. Like,
Mm.
why this book? What's that going to bring you in a like expanded newsletter form? So that's what I'm thinking about. Something where people can chat about reading and travel, maybe book clubbish kind of thing. Definitely, so an opportunity to have a space to talk about it and an opportunity to have a space to write about it.
I love it. I
So
love it. And are
that's
you going to talk
that's
about specific destinations or countries, or
a
what
hundred
level
percent.
is it going to be at?
100%. I mean, I could easily go back now and write articles about all the books that I've read and the places I've been and how that's impacted me. With a week to go before I go to Mongolia, I don't know that I'm going to populate the whole thing before I go. I make no
Come
promises
on.
along
Oh,
those
come on. You've
lines.
done before. You've done more before, so you could probably pack it in.
I can promise to write the Mongolia article when I come back, but I don't know that that's a destination where a lot of people are going to be like, you know what? I've been wondering what to read when I go to Mongolia. Um, if you people are
It's a
out
proof of
there,
concept.
I
You
have
start
got you
small.
covered. I've got everyone covered who's worried about
You
what to
don't
read when
understand.
they're in
There's probably
Mongolia.
hundreds of people who might be watching this who will be like, "Oh, I'm going to go to Mongolia next because it piques my curiosity."
I hope so. Like that, that would make me so happy.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be fantastic. So
yeah.
let's see if we can cover quickly because we have about 12 minutes left. So the money thing, you got that taken care of. What about healthcare? Did you have any problems when you were traveling that needed health care, or were you in good shape?
That's a super interesting question. The only time I've ever had a healthcare issue, like a real emergency, it's a really strange one. I went to Italy with my husband a few years ago, and we woke up in Rome. And actually, I woke up at like 2 in the morning, and my eyes were really bothering me. And I have
Mm,
dry, itchy eyes. I take cyclosporine for dry eyes. I have like, it's Restasis. So I'm on that. I'm really careful about my eyes. but they were really bothering me. And then I woke up at 4 o'clock again and they were itching and bothering me again. By 6 a.m., my eyes were burning. I cannot describe to you. I couldn't keep them open and I couldn't keep them closed. Like I
Yikes.
was in excruciating pain. I had the most flaming eye infection. It wasn't pink eye, it was like both my eyes were completely red and felt like somebody was like actively sandpapering my
Oh my
eyes.
God. That's
And
awful.
I said to him, I was like, you have got to go down and ask the concierge. It was a Sunday morning too in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you have got to ask them where an emergency hospital is. I said, I need to see someone about my eyes right now. Like, we cannot wait an hour. And I couldn't even open my eyes to get dressed. He had to lead me into the elevator and into the taxi
Oh
cab
my God.
because I couldn't open them. I couldn't close them. I couldn't see through them. We found an eye doctor who came in on a Sunday morning to see me. And I had some sort of insanely crazy, unusual eye infection. And
Whoa.
he prescribed two different kinds of antibiotic eye drops, and it started getting better. Um, and, I think we paid cash for that.
Hmm.
But honestly, any amount of money would have
When
been,
that happens to you, yeah, you just get it
I
done.
couldn't have
Yeah.
lasted another day. I don't know what I would have done. So that's
Wow.
the only real health emergency I've had. But when I think about the travels I've had, like I've done some crazy things and been in some crazy places. And when I look back on the 13 plus broken bones from horseback riding, I am acutely aware that I am breakable
Mm.
and fallible. And with the amount of travel I'm doing, I know that the odds are against me in terms of being fine and nothing happening. So just this year, I actually purchased a year-long policy of travel insurance. Um, and I kind of researched best I could. I would love for somebody to tell me what kind of annual travel insurance they use, because when you look at the coverage and you think about like being medevaced out of a country, like if in the worst case scenario, um, no amount of annual coverage is going to help.
Exactly.
Um, but I did purchase the annual policy, and it's the first time I did it because I do feel breakable.
Mm. It took you until you started horseback riding to realize that, or
Well, I do. I would say yes. And
Mhm.
it's not that I wasn't breakable before, but I always would take this, oh, really, nothing's going to happen kind of
Yeah,
attitude,
what's the worst that
which is
could
why I
happen?
kept getting back on and continuing to ride. I was like, well,
Yeah.
that was bad, but now it's done with. And then it would happen again. And I was like, well, that was bad too, but surely we're done now. But eventually I realized it was not good. The last break was I shattered my collarbone, cracked 7 ribs, and punctured a lung.
Oh
And I was
my
in the
God.
hospital for 2 days. And I was like, I think this is the sign I needed. Um,
Man, so you said you were partial digital nomad. Are you planning to do more? Like expand the amount of time that you spend away from home, or
well, let's let's give a quick inventory of the year. In January, I was in Dubai and Cancun. In February, I think I just went to Bend, and in March, just down to the California desert. Um, this is the quietest period I have all year because I'm about to go to Mongolia for 2.5 weeks. In June, I'm going to Jamaica. In July, please don't ask me why I'm going to Austin, Texas in July.
I love
Um,
Austin,
I'm
but not in
I'm
July.
not in July. I'm moving a child there. Yeah, I have my first college graduate.
Yay.
Yay. But boo that I
Congratulations.
have to move him to Austin in July. In
But
August, I
Austin
think
is a
I'm
great town, so you can go visit,
it is. I'm
it's
excited about that.
yeah.
I'm excited to go to South by Southwest sometime. But the rest of my travel itinerary for the years, I think I'm going to Paris and a little bit of Europe in August to take another. And again, Paris in August, it's not a good time to go to Europe. But
It is
another
hot
child is there for the summer.
and it's quiet.
Um,
It's quiet in
it's
August.
so quiet, right? Um, and so hot. It's not ideal, but my kid's there, and I want to
Yep.
take her somewhere. And then I'm going to Croatia and Bosnia and Montenegro in the fall.
Nice.
So I feel pretty mobile.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's a that's
you're
a
already got a lot of plans. And it sounds like you
it's a
plan
lot.
pretty far ahead.
I plan when the trips drop into my lap, and all
Mm,
of those have worked out well. The Croatia trip is the husband trip for the year.
mm,
That's the one where I'm like, okay, honey, I am going to Mongolia, but let's go to Croatia in the fall.
right.
Look over here at this shiny trip. Don't feel bad about the one you're not taking.
I hear
And
Croatia is
Jamaica is
beautiful.
Yeah, I'm so excited for Croatia. I couldn't be more excited. And Jamaica, I'm taking my nephew because he doesn't have a mom to take him on trips.
Mm,
So my sister and I take my nephew on trips.
nice. That's awesome.
So yeah, so there's a lot of reasoning behind why I have so many trips, but yes, there are a lot. And
I
I
love it.
actually have 2027. I have a Brazil trip in January because my sister has a birthday party that she's supposed to go to in Rio, and I've never been to Brazil, and I want to go to a birthday party in Rio,
Yeah.
and
I hear you have to
I'm
pack a
allowed to tag
bikini. Is
along.
that true? You have to pack a bikini to go to Rio? Is that
You know what? A bikini is another thing. I'm like, you know what? I am past the point of caring. Like, people can see my tummy, and you know what? People lived in there, and you can tell. And I'm wearing the bikini if I want to. So
I love it. I love it. So, if you were going to give one piece of advice to people who are thinking about doing this and they're just on the fence, what would you say?
honestly, I mean, everybody's got to do it in different ways, right? Like, you have to take inventory of your life and figure out what is right for you, partial nomad, full nomad. But I would say, don't wait. Um,
Mm,
we are not going to, we're likely as healthy as we're ever going to get. Um, there's definitely a window of time where if you had kids and you're an empty nester, it's, you're not as needed as you were. And I think there's another period of time where you are needed. Parents, grandchildren, there's all sorts of reasons. But if you're in that moment of life where you're not as needed, you take advantage of it, like time, health, money. You do what you can when you can, and don't wait.
yeah,
That's my big advice.
absolutely. And for people who are sort of too young to retire, see if you can get that remote gig, because I think the remote gig, it makes it either, if your company can allow you to do a remote gig, which is what happens which is what happening with me. I mean, I've been doing remote work for 15, 20 years now, and every company I've worked for was okay with remote work. So there's so many companies out there who are offering remote work. So ask, I mean, there's no
Ask.
downside to just asking, especially if you are in a position to work remotely. There's no downside to asking your employer, can I do this?
Even if
Right?
it's a month, right? Like, can we go rent a flat somewhere for a
Yeah,
month abroad and go do it? If you don't ask, you're not going to know.
that's right.
Um, so
That's right.
yeah,
And really, if you it's driving you and your employer doesn't want to do it, then there's plenty of other ways to do freelance work or whatever to get yourself in that position.
yep, yeah. Every time I've really gone after something, I've made it work in some way. So you definitely have to go after it.
Yep. Well, you've been super lucky that
I've
everything
been
that's
super
happened to you.
lucky.
It's great.
Absolutely, super lucky.
So can you rub some of that luck on the rest of us, everyone else who's listening on the call?
Absolutely. Part of it's luck and part of it's going after what you want, right?
Right. Yeah. Well,
So
it's interesting. Like, what would have happened if your fifth date didn't work out? Would you have said, I'm not going to do this anymore, or could you have stretched it out to a few more dates? I'm curious about
we will
that.
never know. I hope we will never know.
Oh man, that's very cool. So, if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Definitely through Substack at Trisha Global Travel. I also have an Instagram at Trisha Global Travel. So both of those work.
And do you put your travel photos on Insta? Like all the
You know,
places
I
you've been?
I do. I do try to put my travel photos on Instagram. I feel like my heart and soul is telling the story through words. So I
Mm,
think my Substack is where my heart really lies. I'm not as visual a person. But I do enjoy putting the pictures up on Instagram, and I might drop some into my chat while I'm in Mongolia. But I do know that I'm going to be in a place that literally, I mean, has no internet access for part of the trip.
wow.
I think out in the Altai and parts of the Gobi and parts of that traveling around, there will be no internet access.
Man,
So
I love that. I wish I could go somewhere where there was no internet, so there's no
it's
pressure
kind of
to do
cool.
anything.
That is definitely not a place for a working nomad to
No,
try.
definitely
I
not.
do not recommend the Gobi
Although
as the
although
place.
I do hear Mongolia is covered by Starlink. So if you have Starlink, you can get internet in Mongolia if you're really
Interesting.
interested. But you don't need that.
Well, I know I'll have the internet in Ulaanbaatar, and we're going through Ulaanbaatar a couple times as we travel because you kind of have to with the internal flights. It's a big place, and it's not you have to kind of go through the center of the hub to go from place to place. So I'll have
Nice.
some internet access, but
So is this going to be going on your current blog, like your Mongolia story is going on your current blog, and then your other one, your other newsletter? When are you going to start that?
Well, that is a fine question. Definitely not in the next 3 weeks. Um, so as soon as I can get a first article up, but I did just so that's the literary itinerary, and you can actually find that on my Substack if you go to it. And if people want to join and be in on how we figure out the collaborative part of it, the book club and the chat, I'd love for people to start. Signing up for it. And if you're interested, you can help me make it a great space that works for people who have a passion for reading and travel. I would love that.
Fantastic. Well, just go straight to your profile, and it's linked as one of your newsletters. So
Yes,
I'm
it
definitely
is.
going to go there right after this. So thank you so much. This has been great.
Fantastic. Chris, thank you so much. You
Thank
just
you.
make the hour fly by. You're fantastic at this. And I love listening to your stuff, and your idea is fantastic to interview 1,000 people. I love it.
Well, thank you so much.
All right.
Talk to
Take
you soon.
care.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.
Oh, I'm living that nomad life, city to city, feeling alive. From mountain tops to ocean drives, unchained I thrive.